The rattle of chains. A damp dirt courtyard before dawn. Short, sharp breaths. A whistle. And the first strike against the training post splits the quiet in two. You think the danger was in the arena. Wait until you see how the day began. In the next few minutes, you're going to discover why a gladiator's life was harder outside the amphitheater than inside it. Stay till the end, because we'll reveal the one detail almost nobody tells you. The secret drink that strengthened their bones, and the one prize that truly changed a life. Welcome to Lost History, where you learn without getting bored, with scenes you won't forget. Imagine waking up every morning knowing two things. Today, you'll eat just enough not to collapse, and today, you could lose your name. Because being a gladiator wasn't just about fighting, it was about living under a system that took your voice, your past, and even your right to sleep without fear. The arena is spectacular, yes. Screams, bronze, feathers, blood. But the real wear and tear was cooked up away from the public. Between stone walls and creaking gates, the ludus, gladiator school. There, the day wasn't made of hours, but of orders. This is where it was decided if a man was profitable merchandise, if he deserved another bowl of barley, or if his back needed to remember obedience. To ignore this part is to miss half the story. Because this could change the way you see gladiators. Not as movie heroes, but as captive workers subjected to a brutal routine, calculated to extract entertainment without wasting the investment. In a moment, you'll discover how that routine broke bodies and wills. Have you ever wondered? For a gladiator, dawn didn't start with the sun. It started with the voice of the lanista, or the trainer, as sharp as flint. Up. The next thing was the cold on your skin, the rough embrace of leather, and the metallic sound of the shackles that many still wore to sleep. There was no coffee. There was the palus, a wooden post that you struck, front, side, diagonal, until your shoulder burned and your fingers trembled. The practice weapons, made of wood and heavier than the real ones, were designed for one thing only: to overcome fatigue, to crush it like you snuff out a hot coal with your heel. The training was a sequence that burned both muscle and pride. Short, explosive sprints in sand that caught at your feet as if the earth itself were clinging to your ankles. Rhythmic strikes against the palus, 100 times, 200, until the rhythm no longer matched your breath but the crack of the whip at your back, reminding you of the correct cadence. Static guards, knees bent, arms tense, for minutes that became centuries. And when you failed the move you'd already repeated 1,000 times, you heard the word no one wanted to hear: correction. It wasn't a trainer's tantrum. It was the language of the business. A mistake in the ludus was an expensive mistake in the arena. Would you have lasted the first month? Or would you have voluntarily sold your freedom like some Hordearii did? Free men who offered to fight in exchange for paid debts or fame. What would you do in that situation? The morning also smelled of oil and crushed herbs. Rudimentary ointments to soothe joints that couldn't afford the luxury of rest. Around you, hierarchy wasn't set by age, but by fight records. Veterans with scars like maps, novices with their eyes fixed on the ground, and in between, everyone else, listening to rules repeated like prayers. Don't steal, don't fight outside of training, don't speak unless asked. Because speaking without permission could hurt more than missing a strike. The morning ended with bodies vibrating and the awareness that the day, in reality, had barely begun. Then came the meal. Not a feast, not a Roman table laden with grapes and roasted boar. A bowl, barley and legumes, sometimes a little cheese, sometimes a piece of meat so small it would offend a stray cat. This is why many gladiators were called Hordearii, the barley men. This wasn't capricious cruelty, it was strategy. Barley and beans are fattening. They add bulk They create a layer of subcutaneous tissue that cushions superficial cuts. A slightly heavier body withstands more blows without being cut open immediately. And a gladiator who lasts longer sells more tickets. Here's the part almost no one tells you. To strengthen their bones and aid recovery, they were given a drink made of plant ash mixed with vinegar and water. It sounded like a punishment, it tasted like a wet stone, but it added calcium and minerals. The incredible part comes now. What was a torment for the palate was an investment in durability for the business. Hunger? Yes, a trained hunger. An empty stomach made you disciplined and dependent. Eating was a measured privilege, not a comfort. When there were no games, there was no rest. Life between fights was a tangle of chores. Cleaning weapons, mending straps, carrying water, stacking firewood, repairing shields. The ludus was a factory, a barracks, and a prison. And the prison didn't just have walls, it had invisible rules. Who sits where? Who speaks first? Whose gaze you don't meet? The original sin was disobedience. The second sin was forgetting your place. Because the hierarchy inside was as sharp as a gladius veterani with the right to better rations or lighter duties. Favoriti of the lanista, protected because they sold well. The condemned who knew their contract was written in red ink. Alliances were forged out of convenience and hatreds from friction. And everyone knew that any unplanned fight was a loss on the books. That's why the most hated and necessary character in the ludus existed. The trainer with the whip, the metronome of discipline. Do you think the arena was always a death sentence? What if I told you the reality was very different from what you believe? Many fights ended with surrender and mercy, missio, if the gladiator had put on a good show. Killing an expensive fighter on a whim was bad business. In a moment, you'll discover how that economic calculation saved more lives than you can imagine, and at the same time, multiplied the anguish. Between chores and training, there was time. And time, when you have no freedom, is heavy. Memory is heavy. The home that's gone. The name you no longer speak. Hypervigilance is heavy. That constant alert stuck to your chest that keeps you from sleeping soundly. The narrow future is heavy. The next fight, the next bruise, the next coin that isn't yours. Did you know that loneliness can be felt even when surrounded by comrades? In the ludus, your identity unraveled. You stopped being Marcus the boatman, Tigranes the shepherd, Aelius the craftsman. You became a type of gladiator. Myrmio, Retiarius, Secutor, Thraex, Hoplomachus, a helmet, a silhouette, a brand, a piece of merchandise. Living with death at your side doesn't make you a philosopher. It makes you a minute-by-minute strategist. Every dawn carried a tattooed question. What if today is my day? Your mind would finger scenarios like beads on a rosary. If the rival is a Retiarius, watch out for the net and trident. If he's a Secutor, his smooth helmet is curved to chase the netman. Don't turn your back. If he's a Myrmio, his large shield can hide a short thrust. If he's a Thraex, his curved blade will aim for your thigh. And then you understood the uncomfortable truth. The arena could be the easiest part of the day. In the arena, at least, everything was clear. You either won, surrendered, were spared, or you fell. And the Summa Rudis, the referee, imposed order. It was a cruel equation, yes, but with visible rules. In the ludus, however, everything was gray. The lanista's mood, the pressure from a games organizer, the whim of a sponsor, the whispers of a crowd demanding blood today only to forget you tomorrow. Here comes a surprise. The medicine in the ludus was better than that of the common person. Not out of compassion, but as an investment. Wounds were stitched with care, honey poultices, and antiseptic, and bandages were applied by expert hands. There were masseurs, ointments, rudimentary physical therapies. If you could return to the ring, they'd fix you. If not, they'd replace you. And hope? It came in the shape of wood. The rudis, a wooden training sword that, when given to you as a prize, meant freedom. It turned a slave into a free man. The crowd would go wild, your comrades would watch in silence, and for a moment, the ludus felt like a temple. But freedom could also be a trap. A free man with no trade and no resources might come back voluntarily for the salary and the fame. The spectacle bites and doesn't let go. Everything was run by the numbers. The cost of training, the price of a helmet, the rental of weapons, the rations. The bribes sometimes needed to get a better matchup. The bonuses for a memorable fight. A gladiator could earn money, yes, but it was managed by others. The show was a business, and the business ate men and spat out names. Meanwhile, on the walls of the ludus, tablets were hung, announcing upcoming games, lists of pairings, and a word written in chalk that everyone scanned, looking for their own name. Each stroke could be a reprieve or a sentence. Let's recap, because I promised you a reward for staying till the end. Dawn didn't bring light, it brought orders. Training crushed fatigue with weapons heavier than the real ones, strikes against the palace, and corrections that hurt the pride more than the skin.
This is unacceptable.
The plate didn't feed a banquet, it fed a plan. Barley and legumes for bulk and resistance, and that ash and vinegar drink that added minerals for bones strong enough to endure another day. Life between fights wasn't rest, it was control. Chores, hierarchies, measured silences, alliances, and hatreds cinched by the same belt. Death was a calculation, not just a spectacle. Many fights aimed for missio if the show was good. The referee and the editor knew how to count. Hope came in the shape of a rudis. Wooden freedom, a real prize, and at the same time a siren's call. The dark truth is that a gladiator's greatest enemy wasn't always his opponent, but the sum of his days. The habit of pain, the managed hunger, the identity diluted into a type of helmet. The arena, with all its blades, was sometimes simpler than the ludus. In the arena, there was an end. In the ludus, there was only continuation. Imagine putting out the oil lamp. The corridors of the ludus whisper. Outside, the city sleeps with a full stomach, not knowing your name. Inside, you practice the same guard one more time, in the half-light, because habit is the only freedom you have left. And yet, tomorrow, you will rise again before the sun, to strike the palace, to drink the mixture that tastes like stone, to fasten the helmet that erases your face and leaves only a character. That was being a gladiator, not just fighting, persisting. If this journey left you thinking, did you know all this? Or did it change something in how you see those stone arenas? If you enjoy these deep dives where you learn without getting bored, like this video and subscribe to Lost History. Every day, a historical journey with scenes you won't forget.